We saw something significant in the world of Major League Soccer coverage. Long running and kind of a flagship show for Major League Soccer coverage came to an end this week. MLS Killed Off Extra Time podcast. What are they doing, Jason?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know. I had seen rumors of this. I think people had picked up on some hints that Matt Doyle was dropping on his social media that it was coming to an end. And then yesterday, Andrew Wiebe with this message, hell of a run, everything good comes to an end. Extra Time deserved a goodbye after 15 years. And they posted a final pod. And there's been some changes over the years. Let me just kind of I don't want to make it about me, but I got to kind of describe my perspective.
Come on, Jason, we
this.
do. We want to make it about you. Come on.
No, I want to give my perspective because I do think there aren't a lot of people who have my particular perspective because I've been in American soccer media for a long time. Now, I started out as an amateur, right? I started out DIY, doing my own thing, writing a blog, doing a podcast off of that blog. It turned eventually into the Best Soccer Show, which some people know me for. And as MLS was growing, Beckham arrived, things like the Best Soccer Show kind of were born. There was this question of where do you get coverage of what is a second-tier professional sports league in America, right? In a country that cares mostly about the NFL, Major League Baseball, the NBA, how do you get coverage? And, there were a lot of independent creators then. It was kind of a glory time for blogs. It was a great moment, a golden age for blogs in 2009, 10, 11, 12. And Major League Soccer around that time decided, hey, there's not enough coverage of the league. We're going to create our own editorial team, and we're going to cover the league at the league website. And this caused an uproar of sorts among blogger types when I was on what was then Twitter back in 2012, whatever that was, right? It was or 2000. I guess the podcast is 2009 if it's 15 years old, right? That seems crazy to me. But around that time, as that stuff was happening, there was this whole big question of whether you could cover yourself. Like, is this a little bit too Pravda? Like, is this a little bit too state media, right? Major League Soccer covering itself. And yet I think time has proven that it was a smart decision because there was a lack of coverage. Now, I don't love some of the knock-on effect it had, right? It kind of became this thing where if you weren't the league website, you didn't get a lot of consideration. Individual teams might work with bloggers and independent writers, but it was really tough sometimes. Podcasts, you kind of always felt like you were being held back from growing your own independent podcast covering a league you cared about because the league itself was kind of eating up all of the oxygen in the room. I think that was a fair thing. My relationship with Extra Time has always been complicated. Like, I'm not going to lie about that. And I'll lay down on the couch for a second and again, make it about me. But when the Best Soccer Show really got going, we had a good listenership. And around 2013, we went to Columbus for a USA-Mexico qualifier. If you remember, this is the one where Clint Dempsey missed the penalty on purpose to keep it 2-0. You remember this one, Robert? Maybe some people out there do. They remember that Clint Dempsey had a penalty kick to make it 3-0, and he missed it on purpose to keep it 2-0. Landon Donovan scored, I think, his final U.S. men's national team goal in that game. But we went as an independent. Yeah, we went as an independent podcast to cover American soccer, right, and to engage. And actually, I think at the time we were maybe part of Kick TV's family. So if you remember Kick TV, it was that. And we ran into Andrew Wiebe, Jared Dubois, and I. My Best Soccer Show partner. By the way, Best Soccer Show still exists. We're a little bit choppy because of Jared's schedule, but it still exists. Go find it on podcasts and on YouTube. And Wiebe, who maybe had a couple of American Outlaw provided adult beverages, said, "Hey, we think of you guys as our competition, or like, it's Extra Time Radio and the Best Soccer Show." And we were we had signed a deal with Kick, but we weren't making great money. It wasn't like we were some massive organization and backed by a big corporation. It was kind of just like still very indie. And it was like, wow, Andrew Wiebe, who works for Major League Soccer, whose podcast is backed by Major League Soccer and is on their league website, thinks of us as competition. And it was cool because we didn't, we were just doing our own thing. We didn't have anybody telling us we're going to promote you or do whatever. We had no promotion.
Yeah.
And I always appreciated Wiebe for that. But at the same time, like, I was in podcasting, I was in radio, I was talking about Major League Soccer, and I never wanted Andrew Wiebe or Matt Doyle or David Gass or even before that, Nick Furchow and Simon Borg and Greg Lawless. I didn't want their takes coming out of my mouth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't want to listen to their show, absorb their information, and then regurgitate what they said. Even if, sometimes I might take something in and then credit the person I heard it from. I try to do that as much as possible. But in this case, I never wanted it to be like that. I always wanted it to be organic from me because I was a close watcher of the league, and so I never engaged with Extra Time Radio as a direct listener. But I know it matters, right? And you just look at the tweets and the posts. This is from Blue Sky, James Knowlton, who writes on American Soccer. He said that it felt independent to him. Some people might not think that, but it felt independent to him. It was accessible, widely available, even from an Apple TV point of view. And this is the change, right, Rob? That the Apple TV has stepped in, and now all the media stuff for MLS is all mixed up in the Apple TV deal. If you want subscribers for something that shows all MLS games who are coming to the league for something other than Messi and more likely to stay post-Messi, and you want to keep them post-Messi, you want retention, Extra Time is surely the kind of in-depth, accessible show that attracts people and keeps them interested. Yeah. So what are they doing, right? Like, I don't have to have engaged with Extra Time Radio as a listener to understand that it had an important and crucial place in a lot of the routines and consumption of Major League Soccer for fans. And there are other podcasts. But I will say that because there are so few American soccer jobs still in 2025, so few full-time American soccer jobs, it's really hard to know if you're ever going to find a show that will be as well-informed as Extra Time Radio, because those guys were literally paid to watch and write about the league. And now it's off the table. Now it's gone. And nobody really understands why.
Yeah, from my perspective, I was an occasional listener. This was Extra Time Radio was the show that I first dipped into it in that sort of era when the show was new. And then whenever I needed something specific, very granular, something that's like so deep in MLS that I needed to find it, that was the place to go. I wasn't by any means a regular listener, but I knew that if there was something very, very, very specific that was only MLS centric, that was the hub for it. And that was a really good point in that tweet that you brought up of there's not many outlets or productions that will have that tenure. Just like in American soccer, teams come and go, leagues come and go. There's very few unadulterated, unfractured relationships in soccer in the United States. And so if one of the main flagship shows, or the flagship show for a long time, goes away in the midst of this messy era, I think that's a very valid point to say, like, when Messi goes away, what will keep those people going that were here before, that they're tied to the league, was this show. And I think there are some people that this was their exclusive home for Major League Soccer coverage. And where do they go now that they're gone? Like, are all of these different creators going to fracture off? And will it, come back? Will there be something of that ilk and something that granular? And like you said, informed beyond the Apple and Messi era.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things, like, and I'm not a media critic, right? But I do, obviously, I'm an American soccer person, and all of this is, like, we do not have the luxury as American soccer fans to just care about the actual game that happens on the field.
No, we got to talk real estate, media deals, all that sort of stuff.
We got to be watching city council meetings for, to green light stadium plans. It's been a while since we've done that, but that's still a thing, right?
It's coming.
Yeah, we're always talking about stuff that is off the field or related to the growth of the game, and that's the thing. We are all boosters of American soccer when we become fans of this game and this league, right? And it could be USL that you're a fan of, but you're still a booster, right? I guess there probably are some less connected, more casual, or simply put, just fans of the team that exist. And I am keenly aware that not everybody's posting all the time, right? Not everybody's on social media sharing their thoughts. And what I see is only a fraction of the true perspective of fans. But I definitely think a lot of people who engage with American soccer become boosters. And we start thinking, well, that's how I got my start. My blog was based on this idea of how do we win a World Cup on the men's side? Well, we got to do this, and that, and the other thing, and I got to check it. It's culture that matters. It's development that matters. It's academies that matter. It's, how do we, does the league need to be one of the best in the world for us to win a World Cup? Okay, well, how do we get our league to that point? Right? So we all become boosters. So when we see something like this happen, and again, I think you can obviously say, you can make an argument that Major League Soccer covering itself was always awkward and weird, and it didn't really have the true spirit of independent coverage that we want. But in absence of that, what was MLS to do? And I certainly respect the guys who put their blood, sweat, and tears into the product, and that's Matt Doyle and Andrew Wiebe and David Gass and Kalen Carr and, name the whole crew of people over there. Like, I respect the effort they put in, and they truly do care about this league. It's not just a job for them. Right? They are boosters as well. They work for the league, but they are boosters as well, and they care. And now you've taken that away. And I will also add to this, Rob. Was there ever an official Spanish language podcast from Major League Soccer? Now, I'm only learning Spanish as an adult. I'm pretty sure you don't habla español, so maybe we're just not aware. Maybe it's not in our narrow view of the league. But that's another thing. Like, if you were talking about how do you maximize the reach of the league, how do you make new fans, why aren't you engaging directly with millions and millions and millions of people who come from cultures or who have family who come from cultures who care desperately about the sport and would happily engage with Spanish language content? So this is all wrapped up in that, right? Like, what is happening right now? What is Apple doing? And why are they doing it? We are all confused.
Yeah, we'll have to see what happens with this. Will there be an extra time radio kind of replacement on Apple platforms, or will these individual creators, like you said, the Weebies and Gasses and others, will they move on and provide independent what do you call it? Production or content creation on their own and their own channels, and maybe that'll add some richness to the coverage. And a good point that Urias put out there is being a self-covering show, they wouldn't touch things like Save the Crew, which are often the most interesting ones that kind of create a little bit of friction and outside of the corporate talking points.
And yes, and look, and people who know me know that was a central part of the United States of Soccer when I was doing the radio show. I talked about Save the Crew every single day it was going on. We covered that story, and I'm glad we were there. And I was obviously working in a corporate environment at SiriusXM and was able to do that. And we do need more of that. And I would encourage MLS, if you're going to take away ETR and that outlet for people, well, then engage more and be directly engaged with all of the outlets that might want to cover you, whether they are SiriusXM and big and a rights holder because games are broadcast on SiriusXM, or if they're smaller outfits. And this is an opportunity, and credit to Matt Doyle, who's been very out front with this. This is an opportunity to remind people that there are independent outlets covering especially specific teams. Sounder at Heart, a new one just launched in Nashville with Ben Wright and that group, and I'm trying to remember exactly what it's called because it is new and it's not sticking on my head. So if anybody in the chat remembers what was announced for 615soccer.com. So that's the one that is covering Nashville. You have the one up in Boston, in New England, who's also Bet Musket. Bet Musket is a great one. They've been around for a long time. Bayou City Soccer down in Houston. Seeing Red out of New York, or covering the New York Red Bulls, of course, New York, New Jersey. There are massive. I'm trying to remember if the crew. There's like a couple different crew ones last time I checked. But again, we're not going to be comprehensive with a list. But this is an opportunity to remind people that there are independent outlets. The fracturing of media, it's not just soccer. Everything is moving in this direction, and it is tough. And if you want good coverage, especially of of your local team, go support independent coverage and support us. I mean, we're going to talk MLS on this show. Support us.
Yeah, I was gonna say MLS is in a weird position in my soccer relationships because I'm a huge American soccer supporter and world soccer supporter, but not necessarily where I spend my time doesn't have a major league soccer team, so it's kind of a fractured relationship there too. And what will Major League Soccer do to bring in people that aren't in a market, so to speak? And
Rob
yeah,
just
support
outed
us.
himself as a Euro snob, everybody. I just want to point that out. That just happened.
Well, that's not true because
Just-
I
just
support.
messing
I
with you.
literally support and work
I
for the
know.
team that
I
is in
know.
the park down the street from my house. So,
I
like
know.
I said, an American soccer fan and journalist. I don't know if that's the right word, but a coverer of American soccer. But at the same time, Major League Soccer is not right there in the middle of my Venn diagram. I want it to be, and we shall see as we move into a full like it. This will be the first time, when the season rolls around in about a month or two. It'll be, the first time we'll be kicking off the season together, covering Major League Soccer together, Jason. So you will be kind of my Sherpa up the mountain of a Major League Soccer season. I covered Chicago singularly a number of years ago, but we shall see, if this all grows on me and how we can spread the word, so to speak, or at least shed light on Major League Soccer for our viewers. And if you want to assist us in becoming the town square for the American soccer conversation, and kind of jump on board and see if Major League Soccer kind of warms in our heart, or see what the MLS hater and me will provide to the American soccer conversation. Subscribe right now, Morning Kick Around. Help us get to 1,000